Yeah, I should probably do something about that.
For those of you who don't know me, I am new to Star Citizen. I've been watching Star Citizen for years, but I've been waiting for my opportunity to jump into the game. I wanted it to be in a more playable version. So just before 4.0, I started playing so I could see the difference between 3 and 4. And for me, there was a noticeable improvement, although of course everything kind of broke in 4, we know that. That's where I come in. I'm a newer player and I have a lot of experience, not a lot, but I have some experience making content for other games, namely Marvel Strike Force, where I was in the content creator program for that game, and I got to talk to developers and see how that game developed over 5 or 6 years. And so I understand how things happen. Now, I watch some of the content creators for this game, and I see them complaining about things that I think, man, you just don't understand. That's not how it works. And so I'll be coming into this roadmap with a totally different perspective. There are things about this game that make me very happy, which older content creators for Star Citizen, they don't seem to care about. It doesn't excite them anymore. The glint and the shine has kind of worn off for them, but for me, it still is an amazing place to play. And also, I'm not worried so much about endgame content because I can't even afford most of the ships. I'm trying to play free-to-play adjacent. That is, I bought the Intrepid to get into the game, and I'm trying not to spend any more money on Star Citizen, at least not until the game goes global. So I am just grinding out regular play loops and seeing how the game works at a fundamental level. That's kind of where I'm operating at, so I'm not quite so worried whether or not the Volt is gonna have fully automatic or 3-round burst, right? Those things they're out of my league, and so I don't care so much about those. Let's jump into the roadmap roundup. Hello, everyone. As we emphasized in the last letter from the chairman and throughout our messaging this year, our top priority for 2025 is improving playability. That's great. I'm glad. That's where they should be focusing. A key part of this effort is refining how we manage feature development, with features now being developed in a separate branch and only migrating over when they are ready. This is great. They're talking about they used to implement new stuff and fixes at the same time, and the new stuff would make new things that need to be fixed or not work with the fixes that they implemented. Now they're fixing things and they're implementing new things over here, and then when they know that they're going to work together and they're ready, then they put them together, and that's a great way to go about it. In a recent episode of Inside Star Citizen, we shared our commitment to delivering more content patches more frequently. Because these updates are highly narrative driven, we've adjusted how they appear in the release view to avoid spoilers. As a result, some newly added cards in the release view are marked as redacted and will only be fully revealed once the content is officially announced or discovered. Before starting this recording, we realized there were lots of redacted things and I was kind of making fun of it. Okay, that makes sense to me. I'm usually not a story-driven person in an open-world game like this. Story-driven games for me need to be scary horror survival games. So I don't care so much about story stuff. But cool, I hope that they do make it more immersive with more characters that you can latch onto, because right now picking a contract and going after it is a little bit dry. As a reminder, the 1.0 column represents features and content planned for Star Citizen 1.0. However, this does not mean you'll have to wait until full release to experience them. Rather, it serves as a snapshot of the experience you can expect. Okay, giving us a heads up that that's stuff to come. There are still more additions and updates to come, including possible changes and additions to immediate columns, so be sure to check back every 2 weeks for the latest updates. Do you guys need me to make this a little bit bigger? All right, still more additions, CIG community team. Okay, notable changes, February 26th, that's yesterday. Deliverables released with 4.0 and 4.01 were marked as released. Meanwhile, a new supply or die has been added for 4.02 and marked as committed. A new 4.1 column has been added to release view, highlighting some of the major deliverables that will be released in the 4.1 patch cycle, either in 4.10 or subsequent patch updates. All right, redacted mission giver location, sandbox activity armor set, space combat missions, a new set of ship combat missions featuring improved scenario design, scheduled to come in 4.1 patch. Okay. Volt AR Parallax, a powerful new weapon. That's the Volt and the Volt's SMG. Got it. Hather Mining Station, a large-scale mining laser facility operated by the Hather Group and Hather Ground Alignment Station, strategically placed Hather-operated outposts, providing key infrastructure and sandbox gameplay opportunities for planetary operations. Okay, new stuff to explore. I like that. Additions to the Star Citizen 1.0 column, control surfaces, improving atmospheric flight dynamics with functional control surfaces, allowing for more precise maneuvering and realistic aerodynamics. This is one of those type of endgame features that don't matter quite so much to me, but this does make it more immersive and realistic. I'm glad this is on the horizon, but for me, this wasn't a priority. I hear a lot of other content creators saying, this is great. We're here for the dogfights and we want it to be more real in the atmosphere. So I guess a little mixed bag there. Quantum Boost. Introducing Quantum Boost, a short burst travel mode designed for quick repositioning and high-speed engagements between distant points. That sounds interesting. So maybe instead of having to navigate your jump points around a planet to go to the other side or whatever, you can just Quantum Boost jump around the planet a little quicker to get there, and then so save you from having to like chart out a course, I guess. Sounds interesting, and it could be a very useful feature. Still doesn't matter if you can't get out of the hangar. Item misfire and wear. Adding depth to equipment functionality with item misfires and gradual wear, requiring regular maintenance to ensure peak performance. Hey, this would be cool, except that when I get blown out of the sky, I lose all of my gear and have to go back to a Kelto and buy it all over again. So I don't think this is actually going to affect me. Here's an idea. How about all the gear that's stowed away on my ship comes back with my ship when I claim the insurance, and then I would actually have to worry about wear and tear on that gear. But for now, it's not important. I'm going to continue buying 10 copies of my Pembroke backpack and not worry about this. Fire hazard. Bringing fire hazards to ships and environments along with fire extinguisher mechanics, requiring players to manage and extinguish blazes before they spread. Now, on the big capital ships, when you have like 10 or more people on your ship and things are happening, that's a great mechanic to implement. But when I'm flying around on my cuddy, the last thing I need to worry is the back of my ass catching fire because I got to get out of my seat and put it out. That just sounds like more stuff that's not necessary for me as an entry-level player on smaller ships. It's just another thing to deal with. Right now, I'm just struggling to stay alive in a dogfight and learning the mechanics of things. Charge and drain. Expand the utility of the multi-tool with the ability to drain and transfer power between objects, unlocking new puzzle solving and support roles. That sounds cool. This is something that could work, like on, I'm sure, like salvaging and things like that. There's going to be things where this could come into play. That's an interesting mechanic that I think could be useful for everyone at almost every level. Life support. Integrating life support systems into ships, making oxygen management and environmental controls critical for survival. The game gets yet more deadly. Again, at a new player entry level, this is kind of scary stuff. But at the same time, I also like the immersion of the oxygen management on your ship. Like, I can just run into the cabin of my cuddy, pop my helmet, take a drink, right? Just even climbing into my ship without even closing the doors, and the temperature levels acclimate and go back to normal again without even closing the doors. So a life support system and oxygen management, that sounds pretty cool. I kind of like that. I don't think that, you know, when you're in a fight with someone and you damage your oxygen stuff, that's not going to be such a big deal in the immediate moment, but after the dogfight, you have to go and fix this problem, and I think that's going to be pretty cool. Engineering gameplay, introducing dedicated engineering roles aboard ships, allowing players to actively manage power distribution, repairs, and system efficiency in real time. Again, with your org on bigger ships, I think that's great. Newer players, this isn't going to be that big of a deal. I think they're talking about maybe fuses and stuff like that is going to come into play. So by the way, if you're finding fuses in games, in game, collect them everywhere you can, stock up on them. You want fuses? I know that they open doors in Pyro and stuff. Solar flare, unleashing powerful solar bursts within the pyro system, creating dynamic environmental hazards that players must navigate and prepare for. Cool. More dynamic gameplay, and this is like a PvE kind of thing. It'll affect everybody at every level in every way. Yet again, making the game more dangerous and more hazardous and more punishing. So again, I would like ways of being able to keep some of my gear and some of my loot and some of my collectible stuff if I get blown out of the sky by a solar flare, even if it penalize me. Don't just make me lose everything. I mean, we got to find a way to do it without duplicating though. Vehicle radar and scanning rework. Rework vehicle radar and scanning for all vehicles. This is something that is probably pretty important. I know I've been scanning and doing mining and stuff, and the scanning seems so wonky. The radar system, we need a decent tutorial on how radar and stealth works in the first place, because most people don't even understand what the numbers on their screen mean, and what the EM and VR and all that stuff means. And so yeah, I think radar and scanning rework is something that is needed. Of course, once again, all of this comes behind functionality. We need transit systems to work. We need elevators to work. I want to stop waiting 800 seconds to make a landing at Port Tressler. FPS radar and scanning, implementing first-person radar and scanning gameplay, improving situational awareness, and bringing new tactical gameplay. Okay, first-person radar and scanning sounds great. If I could get my controls mapped to a regular controller, I probably would do a lot better on the ground. So that would be something that I would enjoy once I get there. But so far, playing with keyboard and mouse, I'm kind of getting it handed to me. Hangar upgrades, expanding personal hangar customization with new upgrades, layouts, and functional improvements. Yes, the stuff that they've got for your personal hangar is an absolute joke, but I want to understand how better the personal hangar works, because I am deathly afraid to leave anything out in my personal hangar, because I know that at some point it's going to disappear and I'm going to have to claim it or buy it or find it or just get a whole new one or whatever. I don't leave anything out in the personal hangar. The personal hangars just don't work yet, so let's get them functional before we worry about putting in a new bedroom set. Weapon overheat, introducing heat buildup and overheat mechanics for energy weapons, requiring careful trigger discipline and heat management during sustained fights. I don't think that there's enough variation between the different guns. I think that some guns, almost all the guns, feel almost equal in power. And so I think that giving energy weapons some different mechanics, like an overheat, and being able, so maybe they're more powerful, but they overheat, that's great. Also, the weapon wear and tear is gonna be useful. So weapons that do more damage also wear faster. I think that's a great idea, so that we can get a little bit more variation in weapon damage. Radiation, implementing dangerous radiation zones in specific locations, forcing players to adapt with specialized gear and strategic navigation. That sounds great. I've already got a huge stock of Pembroke undersuits. Bring on the radiation. I'm all for it. New missions, location repair. Implementing new missions that introduce repair gameplay into the persistent universe, first appearing in Pyro's outposts. We've temporarily moved this card to the 1.0 column, but like all features and content there, it will be assigned to a point patch once it's ready. So it's not gonna happen at global. It'll happen before global, but it's not gonna happen next. And so I'm fine with that. I think repair and stuff is a big thing to tackle, and it affects a lot of things, like the missing economy, like salvage, like the idea that maybe we should be able to go tow in someone's claimed spaceship. Like if they've claimed their insurance on a spaceship and you've got a broken hull of a spaceship, we should be able to tow that into a dock, spend our in-game credits rebuilding it, and have that ship as our own, right? You know, find an old junker and rebuild it. It's what every guy wants to do. And so repair is a huge issue that affects a lot of things. And that's something that they need to put on the back burner and make sure that they've got the kinks worked out on that. So I'm okay with that. And it says it's not gonna be global, but it's not gonna be next. So Progress tracker. You can now find a preview of many things we are currently working on in the progress tracker. This thing's a joke. We were looking at this earlier. This progress tracker is an absolute joke. Doesn't make any sense to me. Unless you're on the inside and you already know what they're talking about, it's going to take somebody deciphering that thing for us to understand. I would rather they just progress, and I don't need to track it. Just progress. I'll play the game and see your progression in real time. You let us test and track whether you're progressing in real time. You don't need to have someone waste their time putting it down on some sort of weird looking horizontal spreadsheet. Character art and tech, it's redacted. The mission giver, yes. I don't care about mission givers at this time. There's too much other important stuff to be working on, so go ahead and move that back. Core gameplay pillar, supplier die event. Okay, looking forward to that. Sandbox activity is redacted. Base building, okay. Base building is one thing that I am looking forward to. It'll give me a reason to do stuff like salvage and mining. I think base building is going to be an integral part of the game going forward, and I think that's going to be really kind of huge. So I'm kind of surprised to see this here. The charge drain, we talked about that. Crafting also, and engineering. So this, okay, crafting, engineering, and base building, those are huge. Those are absolutely huge. I hope that they are kind of a priority. These are things that I do want implemented. Again, all of this comes after implementing functionality of the game and playability. But base building, crafting, and engineering, I think those are going to be huge because those allow them, once they're in place, once they have them functioning, and you can build your base, and you have a, even if it's real bare bones, but you have a bare bones idea of building and engineering and crafting guns and tools and items, then we can start talking about implementing economy. The big joke in Star Citizen is what economy? There shouldn't be an economy right now. It's not live. They wipe this game every 6 months, for crying out loud. They can't implement an economy because every time they put in something new, there's an exploit that breaks the economy. They should not be worrying about economy. I hear content creators complaining about what economy all the time. The economy should be the very last thing that they implement. It should simply be the very last thing that they implement and tweak, because every other thing affects economy. And every time they implement something new, it comes in unpolished, not functioning, or flat out completely broken, and people find exploits. We just heard about the Hull C exploit, right? And with the, I think it's Supply or Die or Jumptown or one of them, they're going to be exploiting that a lot, and they've got to fix things like that because people are going to be making so many credits that they will just give credits to their friends, and then it doesn't matter how good the economy works because everybody has so much credit and money that they just don't care. So stop complaining about the economy, stop worrying about it. Understand that it is not a global release game. They are still working on it, and economy should be the very last feature that the developers put into play. And then locations redacted, the mission giver location, because we're not doing that. Okay, so yeah, the big ticket items for me were the base building, engineering, and crafting. That I wasn't really expecting to see that. This progress tracker is a total waste of time. I do like that they're implementing new features for the guns like wear and tear and heat up and stuff. And so that's great. These are all great things to be working on. That sounds like a lot to put on CIG's plate, especially when they said, hey, we're going to be trying to implement less things so that we can fix more things. Sounds like they're still wanting to implement a lot of stuff. And all the while, don't forget, they're going to be putting in new ships because that's how they make money. That's never going to stop. Believe me. When it comes to these video games, coming from I know what I'm talking about here. The number one thing for CIG is to make sure that they are selling you something. And what they sell you right now is ships. I think that maybe we should consider saying, hey, we would like to be buying more microtransactions. Could you make more things available for us to pay money for that don't affect gameplay? Things like liveries for your ship. I would be willing to spend $2, $5, $10 to buy a fancy paint job for a specific ship of mine. And they could make a little bit of money like that if they could just figure out how to implement liveries that don't break the game. I don't know if that's too tough for them to do or not. But so far, their only way of making money for this game is by selling you guys spaceships. So that is going to be their unwritten number one priority, is constantly providing you new ships. So there's a team of people making sure those things are going to be churned out time and time again. That's a whole different discussion. But for this roadmap, I'm a little bit pressured thinking that's a lot. It sounds like a lot for them when they just told us they were going to back off implementing new things and fix more things. Because I tell you what, transit ain't fixed, guys. Transit ain't fixed. Anyways, I'm Run 7, and this is my reaction to the roadmaps. Catch me here all the time. Links in the description, usual self-promotion stuff. I'll see you next time. Bye.